Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear viewers, and welcome to Women's View on Ahlulbayt TV, a show discussing Islam through the viewpoint of women. Now, first of all, before we begin our show, for those who are celebrating Eid today and for those who are celebrating Eid tomorrow, would like to wish you all, on behalf of myself, my guest, and the Women's View team, would like to wish you all a Eid Mubarak. Inshallah, you enjoy this day or tomorrow or whenever you're celebrating it. Inshallah, you enjoy it with the family. We pray, inshallah, next year we'll all gather together on the Mount of Arafat, inshallah. So, Eid Mubarak to you all. Now, today's topic is a very interesting one, and it is dealing with rejection. Now, as soon as we mention this, we're going to be doing this topic, a lot of people raised a few eyebrows because it's a very sensitive topic and it's a very serious topic as well. So, we're not going to just be talking about dealing with rejection in terms of a marital point of view or a partner point of view. We're going to be talking about dealing with rejection in a wider scale, dealing with rejection within a society, within a group of people, within family, and within, a lot of issues. Now, we've got your comments here, we've got your emails here, we've got your questions, so it's going to be a very interesting topic. I just want to remind you all that this is a live call-in show, so if you would like to call in with your views or opinions, then you can call in with the number on the screen. Alternatively, you can email us at womensview@ahlulbayt.tv. And inshallah, some of your messages which we'll get during today will be shown at the bottom of the screen. Now, I'm your host, Zahra Al Alawi, and today with me is Sister Fatima Jami. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Now, this is a very interesting topic, and it's a very sensitive and serious topic. And, we've got so many people messaging us, asking their questions, telling us their story of rejection. So, inshallah, we'll be tackling some of their issues. But before we start that, what is rejection?
Yeah, so it's a good point, and I like what you said earlier, that we have, by no means can we kind of explain it all or go into major details on what form of rejection. We're talking about the feeling of rejection. So rejection in any way is, if you look at it, the opposite of acceptance. So as human beings, we grow up, expecting to be liked and loved, and that's within our, physical human attributes, this want to be accepted in whichever area or arena you're in. It could be mother and daughter relationships, father and son relationship, at school, colleagues, peers, but you automatically have this understanding that people are going to like me. So I think that is where we expose ourselves to these dangers of feeling the signs of rejection, because when we embrace someone in a friendship, when we're embracing someone in a work environment, we automatically want to be liked. So as a result of that, it's like an automatic, if someone doesn't respond to you in a certain manner, you automatically feel rejected. And it's that feeling of worthlessness, you think that, that I'm not good enough to be liked by so-and-so. It could be in a work environment, it can be in your career, in an interview, a more professional level, or a very deep personal family environment. In either way, the feeling is the same. Some people tolerate it in a better manner, and some people, it hits them harder than others. So, the concept of rejection is that feeling that, I'm not liked, or I'm not good enough to be here with you, or there is someone here who's better than me. And it's that I would like to discuss today, that turning this around and really understanding why you're feeling like that and breaking the cycle and getting out of it.
Definitely true, yeah. But how do we experience rejection? I mean, what is the process, or how do we experience it?
Any environment that we're in, this goes back to the show that we did the week before last, and in any arena that we're interacting with another person, it could be a school child. I mean, you're exposed to it at a very, very young age, because, from the point that you're on your own in the outside world, or you're in nursery school, it starts so young in your life, the first point of interaction. It could be within your family, if you've got siblings who are in a different they're older than you, and you feel like they're getting more attention than you. That could be your first introduction to the concept of rejection. You can't compartmentalize it, you can't, at that point maybe you don't understand it, but it's that which grows sometimes within you, and it translates in different forms. And sometimes when you don't get that attention, when you do feel rejected, you carry that burden. And then as you grow older, you go into school, and God forbid, the shortfall here is, what if I'm used to being rejected, and you carry on in your life negatively. You go to school, you don't expect to be liked within friends, you don't expect to get that good grade in school, you don't expect to go into university, and that is the avenue you can take. But what we're trying to say is, no, if you take it back and really deal with, inshallah, you're from a loving family, but if you are exposed to that rejection within family or your culture, friends, your peer groups, your colleagues, rejection within religion. You know, if you've embraced your deen, or say if someone, you have a reverts, or someone who's decided, well, actually, you know, I'm going to wear hijab, or I'm not going to participate in a certain gathering, you automatically feel rejected within your peers. So these are all different ways that we can be exposed to rejection. And the issue again, and which it's like, you know, a snowball forming. If you're rejected in every area of your life, then that can lead to depression, that can lead to that worthlessness, or what, you know, I'm so not good enough for anyone to like me, and that can affect you personally, physically, spiritually. So, you know, these are the areas that we experience on our first point of contact with rejection. And it's that sometimes forms our character, which is, you know, it's a bit of a catastrophe if that is the case. Definitely.
Now, from everything you said, you know, feeling rejected can have like a big impact on someone. But I just thought of this scenario, for example, you know, is rejection always a bad thing? For example, if Mrs. X wants to marry Mr. X, and he's obviously not the right person for her, and like rejection happens in the process, is that always, you know, is rejection always a bad thing? I know it can have a negative effect on someone, but is it always a bad thing?
I think it's difficult for this one because when you're hurt, when you're emotionally involved with something, and those feelings are greater than who you are sometimes, then it can easily turn into negative. But again, being a positive person that I am, I think, no, everything can be translated into positive. And it's again going back to what I said earlier, that if you understand that, you know, I won't make it to this interview, or if I can't marry such a person, the reason is this, maybe we're not compatible with different families. Or if you can understand and rationalise why, if you have a logical understanding, you know, I didn't make it for this interview, let me go back, maybe my CV wasn't correct, maybe I didn't interview correctly, let's, you know, lessons learned, let me go back and discuss it with someone and really tackle the issue. Again, with what you were saying with marriages, that's a very professional, very unemotional kind of area, but we'll take it personally if you want to get married to someone, and, you know, at the end of the day, it does feel like rejection, that you're not good enough to marry this person, such a person is not good enough to come for your hand. And then if it doesn't work out, and you've applied everything and all resources and all tools humanly possible, then again it goes back to your den. This is where we come into it. Having a strong faith is your saviour, because with a lot of people, when they don't have that faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they fall into that loophole. But we as Muslims, as believers of the Ahlulbayt alayhi salam, we know that Allah has something else in plan for us. And, you know, if it's not going to happen, that you can jump up and down and go, you know, do everything that you want, fulfill those, you know, change yourself. And that's something else that I will go into. But if it's not going to happen, it never will. It's not in your hand, it's not in my hand. There's only one person who has the infinite plans. And knowing that and understanding that from the word go in every part of your life, I think, you know, tawakkul on Allah, you know, and that is your test. We are tested in every aspect of our life. And, you know, in personal relationships, it's the first one. So you have to think about it. If I'm going to change to be accepted by you, then that's fine, you might accept me. And then someone else won't. Then I change again to be accepted by so-and-so. And then I get changed again for someone else. Then who are you?
So changing.
And then you have to really understand this and explore these attributes within yourself, especially if you're growing up and it's your first interaction and experiences, and you think, if I'm constantly going to change, how many times do I have to change to fit in? You know, who am I at the end of the day? It's like being a chameleon. But if you think about it on the other side and think, you know, my duty is towards my deen and, you know, Allah's objectives in life, and that's all I'm going to strive towards. And the return is immense. And you know that if if you're rejected within your friends because you're not wearing a certain kind of clothes and they're all wearing, you know, you obviously don't fit in, you dress modestly and they don't. So if you're going to change yourself to fit into them, tomorrow they'll walk away. And then you'll meet another group of friends and then you have to change again. So practically speaking, that's the simplest way I can explain it. But then you think, no, if this is a relationship between me and Allah, these friends will come and go. So naturally, you've got a bigger objective in life, and naturally you know that, you know, you don't like me, it's fine, this is my test. And I'm going to, inshallah, pass it, and whatever comes after this, I will embrace. So, you know, it can always be positive. It's changing your mindset and understanding that there's no reason for me to change for everyone that I meet. Because, you know, that's just insanity. We can't do that. You can't expect that of others, and they can't expect that of you. So be completely transparent, and understand who you are, and be confident within who you are. So you think, you know, I have to have the strength to say, no, thank you very much, I can't be a part of this, or it's not working out for a reason. Maybe Allah's got something else. Of course He has something else better planned for me. So, you know, I won't be depressed, and that's the other loophole. Sometimes when we take it so badly that we fall into this turmoil, and you start feeling sorry for ourselves, and you feel like you've got this inferiority complex, and that's when it goes negative. So you just, you know, nipping it in the bud and turning it around and being positive is
that's true, yeah. Like it says in the Quran, Allah is the best of planners. And I think many people, they want to plan their life, you know, they want to marry this person, they want to do this, they want this job. And then when it doesn't happen, they get into this depression mode and they feel rejected. But Allah is the best of planners, like you said, and, you know, everything happens for a reason, it's all a test. But like I was telling you, you know, before we started the show, I was checking my messages this morning and a sister messaged me and she said, don't mention my name or anything. She goes, I just wanted to give this idea that for you lot to discuss it. And basically she's a revert, and she messaged me and she said, she goes, I reverted to Islam about a year ago, or I don't know how long ago she did, but she goes, my parents and my family are rejecting me because of my beliefs. And she goes, I just want you lot to discuss this because there's many people that are going through the same thing in my position. So so then I was like, okay, and then she said, please don't mention my name, I don't want people to know it's me that said this. But in terms of like reverts, especially if someone changes their faith, if they have a family that are not religious, I know many sisters from the Pakistani culture have emailed us saying that their families don't wear hijab and they want to wear hijab, and back in Pakistan it's you know, it's seen as an extremism for some sisters to wear hijab, and we've got some of their emails as well. And for example, if a sister has a family which are Christians or belong to another faith or have different ideologies, and they enter the path where they you know, they pick up religion and they become more religious and get rejected by their family, you know, how can someone deal with a situation like that?
If you've taken that decision, and mashallah, what a beautiful position to be in, to kind of take on all of this struggle because you have your iman must be mashallah so strong, then you understand that, you know, you have to think about it like anything else. Right, I'm changing quite literally overnight perhaps. I know spiritually maybe I've been walking towards this position, but if you're changing, you have to again understand, and it's like you know, getting yourself prepared that naturally I'm going to be facing issues, and get yourself prepared. Don't expect to be accepted automatically, and that's my point. If we automatically think I'm a nice person from within, people are bound to like me. What I'm doing is pure, it's beautiful, and I'm protecting myself, I'm observing modesty. But the people outside that you're dealing with are perhaps in the majority, you're in the minority. So you stand out and accept and understand that. And I know from personal experiences, I had to go through this when you know, people call you extremist. I think, you know, you're not independent anymore, or you know, you've been bullied into wearing hijab. All those, I know from an experience point of view that it is really hurtful because you're so confident in what you're doing. But then, you know, that is one of the struggles, and you have to accept that no one is going to embrace you and say, oh God, you know, you've changed, or you've turned a new deen, you know, let's all to convert. That's not really practical, and I think that's how we need to educate ourselves. The sister who's converted, mashallah, you know, I think it's such a blessing, and how amazing must it feel. But you're in a family you've been raised, you've been born a Catholic, say for instance, everyone in your family is Catholic. All of a sudden, you wake up, you start covering yourself, you pray in a different way, you eat different food. It's going to be a shock to their system. So education, I always bring it down to education. And sometimes don't have too many expectations. And again, it's the tawakkul in Allah, and knowing that, you know, this is the path you've chosen for me. Was it easy for our prophets? May Allah bless their souls. Was it easy for the Ahlulbayt alayhi salam when they took on these journeys? How do we expect it to be easy for us? And it's just to break that cycle and accept that, you know, when you're maybe introducing it to someone, maybe make it completely transparent that you might not like what I'm doing, but because I'm confident in it, this is the way. I choose to be like this. I can educate you, I can talk to you about it, but this is who I am. And 9 out of 10, you know, law of humanity, when someone knows you're confident, you've made your mind up, and it's not a rash decision, they will respect you for it. You know, I always draw comparisons to other obvious things. If you're talking to someone, and if they're an intellectual person, I always bring in similarities, what would relate to them. So for myself, I would say, you know, when someone makes a difference in their diet, I have high cholesterol, I choose not to eat anything with high fat content. People respect you for it, don't they? Because it's for your physical good, because they understand it, they know the logic behind it, you know. But if you went to the doctors and they said all of a sudden, stop eating, don't do this, don't do that, you would like shocked, why? I don't understand this, that and the other. So what I'm saying, it's a new concept. And when other people do it for other parts of their well-being, why can't you do it for your spiritual well-being? And, you know, just educating them and going through it and forcing and reinforcing it within yourself. and then you will be accepted. One day, inshallah, it will become that they're in the minority, you're in the majority, which goes to our second point, surrounding yourself with people that are like you. But inshallah, if that is what we're striding towards.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that's very true. Like when we look at the lives of the Ahlulbayt and the Prophet, they all sort of faced rejection from a certain group or society. I mean, the Prophet had stones thrown at him, and you know, it's like all these great figures, they had these great personalities, they had people rejecting them from society or groups of people, and yet they carried on forward. And like you said from the beginning, it's remaining positive in these situations, and inshallah, you know, with time people begin to accept people. I mean, when people start wearing hijab and you hang around with a group that do not understand it, first of all it's really odd and people reject you, but then when people come to understand the concept of hijab and, you know, come to get used to you wearing that, then they act normal.
I think it's difficult in the West, and I know I always say the West, I don't mean it literally, you know, the West are bad, but because they're not used to it, you automatically change. It's human behaviour. If one day you're with someone and they're a certain way and you're used to that, you were raised with them, you ate on the same table as them, you ate the same food as them, and one day they walk in and you can't associate with them anymore. I think that is understanding that, maybe you being a bit more, you being anyone who's made a different drastic change in their life, maybe appreciate it. I'm not saying accept it, I'm not saying, you know, go towards it, but really don't be so harsh on yourself. You know, it's turning it around. And when I was reading into this, the concept of rejection, and I think this is where the pitfall comes into play. A lot of people automatically think it's me, I've been doing something wrong. And, you know, as human beings, we try to justify things. And the first thing we do is we scan ourselves and we think, I have a flaw, it's me. You know, and this is the problem. It's universal across the board. It doesn't have to be rejection. It can be rejection in a marriage, in a friendship, in your peers, in your anywhere. You automatically think you have the flaw, and that is key not to do. You're not the one with the flaw. If you're confident in what you're doing, especially in the way of Allah, especially in the way of Deen, then you know you will automatically come away from that thought process. So,
definitely true, yeah. But in terms of rejection, I mean, people, okay, fine, we understand the concept of rejection and all these issues, but what kind of impact can it have in someone's life? I mean, if someone gets rejected, does it really impact their life? I mean, can it really affect them?
Yeah, it mutilates you. Again, I was going back to, you know, your first point of interaction with someone, you put your hopes in someone. Taking it back, actually, you know, as human beings, like I said, growing up as a child from the point that you're nurtured, you know, when you see a little baby or a child, it automatically wants your acceptance. You know, it reaches out for you, and, you know, you see little children. That's how we are as human beings. We want people to like us. And that is why sometimes we get hit so hard with someone disliking us, because it's new to our system. So, yeah, if we're constantly wanting that acceptance, that is where it will hit us hard. And unfortunately, what tends to happen is when people get knocked on the head or they get rejected, they go into the depressive mode. And that is where it becomes dangerous, because once you're in depression, you know, your life changes immensely. And then there's two ways around it. When someone, say, maybe aesthetically, on a physical level, they don't feel beautiful, like what we were discussing, and they feel rejected from society, from their peers, they carry that on their shoulders. And sometimes the issue here is they start accepting the fact that they're not worthy. So that's when, you know, when you were saying that, does it affect us? Yes, it does. Because if we are not strong enough, if spiritually we're not confident, and if we don't have this faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God forbid, we start to fall deep into this trap, because we want people's acceptance. Every morning you wake up, every day that you get out of the house, every day that you go to the office, you want someone to notice you. You want someone to say, you know, you look nice today, or you know, this, that, or the other. And when you don't get that, when you're not received with that, that is where the pitfall is, and it changes you. And I know with a lot of sisters, a lot of people, you know, universally, that's when they fight for this attention. They compete with other people. They want to look more beautiful. They put more makeup on. They want to do this. They wear the more, you know, their clothing manner changes, because they just want this automatic acceptance. And sometimes when you are experiencing rejection from childhood, you're always craving for it. You go into the outside world, because you would, and you know, it's you know, scientifically proven. Psychiatrists have just studied this for years, that when you are rejected by your parents or by a partner, or if you've gone through divorce and it hasn't been amicable, you're always carrying that on your shoulder. you walk out the house and subconsciously, you don't do it voluntarily, you want people's acceptance even more. You have something to prove because you know it's subconsciously. It's like, no, I'm not that bad. You have to love me. You have to care for me. You have to give me this job. So that makes it even worse because I'm sure everyone has experienced, or you know someone who has. But that is where it becomes so messy, and you stop becoming someone else. But let's take it back and say, how can we break this cycle? Because as when I talk about it, actually, it upsets me because I think, when someone is in that situation and they feel helpless, or they're not getting the aid that they want, the work, they look towards other people to fulfill those void spaces in their lives. That's where it becomes so dire that, people start doing all sorts. They get into the wrong crowd. They start experimenting with things they shouldn't do because they just want to escape from this lifelong rejection, which stems, sometimes it's deeper rooted than I can explain, or, everyone knows their own story, but it's usually very deep. So, for me, and I'm sure for yourself or anyone, any believer, supplicating is the answer. Walking towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reading the du'as, reading the Quran, they bring so much positivity in your life.
That's true.
When you start understanding that, we have a duty in this life, and these are all tests, and how, look at the bounties that Allah's given us, and look at, you have to just look into nature, look at the trees, look at the sky, and you think, wow, this is so beautiful. And I'm being hung up by someone not liking the way I look, it just puts your life in perspective.
Definitely. I mean, people try to impress the people, and it's not the people that we should be trying to impress, it's Allah. Even the Ahlulbayt, they said, Radallah Ridana Ahlulbayt, like the satisfaction of Allah is our satisfaction. So in terms of people try to, impress the public, when in fact it's Allah that we should be trying to impress.
And do you not find that some people turn towards others and they want them to feel, they want them to aid their issues, and instead of reaching their hands out and praying towards Allah, they look at, they put their faith in someone else. It could be anything, and then they expect a return. So and the ayah that I came up with stuff on the ayah that I saw that, and I thought, this is the best way I can explain it was, in Surah Al-Talaq, it says, whoever relies on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is sufficient for him. And that explains it beautifully. Allah is sufficient for all of us. We don't need anyone else. If this is between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, who is anyone else to determine what we're doing, or how we should look or how we shouldn't, or them to accept or reject us? Surely if Allah accepts us, then everyone will.
Definitely.
Isn't it the case, someone who prays and they've got the nur on their face, people like them, you have more likability, and the stronger they are, the harder it's for someone to break you down.
Definitely true. Definitely true. We're just going off a quick break right now, but inshallah we'll come back straight to the discussion afterwards. We're going off for a quick break. Please do join us in a few minutes. We'll be speaking more about the issue of dealing with rejection. So don't go away and join us soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sensitive topic, and it's a very serious topic as well. So we're not going to just be talking about dealing with rejection in terms of a marital point of view or a partner point of view. We're going to be talking about dealing with rejection in a wider scale, dealing with rejection within a society, within a group of people, within family, and within a lot of issues. Now we've got your comments here, we've got your emails here, we've got your questions, so it's going to be a very interesting topic. I just want to remind you all that this is a live call-in show, so if you would like to call in with your views or opinions, then you can call in with the number on the screen. Alternatively, you can email us at womensview@ahlulbayt.tv, and inshallah some of your messages which we'll get during today will be shown at the bottom of the screen. Now, I'm your host Zahra Al Alawi, and today with me is Sister Fatima Jami. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Now, this is a very interesting topic, and it's a very sensitive and serious topic, and we got so many people messaging us, asking their questions, telling us their story of rejection. So inshallah we'll be tackling some of their issues. But before we start that, what is rejection?
Yeah, so it's a good point, and I like what you said earlier, that we have, by no means can we kind of explain it all or go into major details on one form of rejection. We're talking about the feeling of rejection. So rejection in any way is, if you look at it, the opposite of acceptance. So as human beings, we grow up, expecting to be liked and loved, and that's within our, physical human attributes. This want to be accepted in whichever area or arena you're in. It could be mother and daughter relationships, you know, father and son relationship at school, colleagues, peers, but you automatically have this understanding that people are going to like me. So I think that is where we expose ourselves to these dangers of feeling the signs of rejection, because when we, you know, when we embrace someone in a friendship, when we embrace
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome to Women's View on Ahlulbayt TV, a show discussing Islam through the viewpoint of women. Now, first of all, before we begin our show, for those who are celebrating Eid today and for those who are celebrating Eid tomorrow, would like to wish you all, on behalf of myself, my guest, and the Women's View team, would like to wish you all a Eid Mubarak. Inshallah, you enjoy this day or tomorrow or whenever you're celebrating it. Inshallah, you enjoy it with the family. We pray, inshallah, next year we'll all gather together on the Mount of Arafat, inshallah. So, Eid Mubarak to you all. Now, today's topic is a very interesting one, and it is dealing with rejection. Now, as soon as we mention this, we're going to be doing this topic, a lot of people raised a few eyebrows because it's a very strong rejection. I mean, what is the process, or how do we experience it?
Any environment that we're in, you know, this goes back to the show that we did the week before last, and in any arena that we're interacting with another person, it could be a school child. I mean, you're exposed to it at a very, very young age because, you know, from the point that you're on your own in the outside world, or you're at nursery school, it starts so young in your life, the first point of interaction. It could be within your family, if you've got siblings who are in a different kind of, they're older than you and you feel like they're getting more attention than you. That could be your first introduction to the concept of rejection. You can't compartmentalize it, you can't, you know, at that point maybe you don't understand it, but it's that which grows sometimes within you, and it translates in different forms. And sometimes when you don't get that attention, when you do feel rejected, you carry that burden. And then as you grow older, you go into school, and someone in a work environment, we automatically want to be liked. So as a result of that, it's like an automatic, you know, if someone doesn't respond to you in a certain manner, you automatically feel rejected. And it's that feeling of worthlessness, you know, you think that, or, you know, that I'm not good enough to be liked by so-and-so. It could be in a work environment, it can be in your career, in an interview, a more professional level, or a very deep personal family environment. In either way, the feeling is the same. Some people tolerate it in a better manner, and some people, you know, it hits them harder than others. So, you know, the concept of rejection is that feeling that, you know, I'm not liked, or I'm not good enough to be here with you, or there is someone here who's better than me. And it's that I, you know, would like to discuss today, that turning this around and really understanding why you're feeling like that, and breaking the cycle and getting out of it.
Definitely true, yeah. But how do we experience